Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. I'm Scott Darnell, and we are all here today to announce the deployment of new crime-fighting technology in Bernalillo County, a tool known as Case Catcher that will be used by police and prosecutors to collaboratively assemble and launch the strongest possible cases against those who commit crimes in the metro area. Case Catcher was built in New Mexico, the result of a chamber-led partnership between the business community, the district attorney's office, area law enforcement agencies, and a higher education institution, New Mexico Tech. Its construction was funded by a 3-year, $1.2 million grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, applied for by and awarded to our Chamber of Commerce. Many of the folks here will speak to the impact that this tool will have on policing and prosecution in our city and county, but to set the stage, I'll simply describe Case Catcher's key features, which are designed to improve how cases are built, how evidence is shared, and how cases are launched for prosecution. So first, Case Catcher provides for the electronic referral of criminal cases by police to the DA's office, including the electronic upload and sharing of all types of evidence and discovery material in a case. This replaces what has historically been an ad hoc, often chaotic, imprecise, often paper-based process. During our building of this tool, we had a chance to speak to a number of police and prosecutors in our area. We talked to one police officer. We asked him from one of the area law enforcement agencies that refers cases to the DA's office, how does this process work? And he said, well, after we've made an arrest, we get in front of our computer and we print all the documents, sometimes burn CDs, if you can believe that, put it all in a folder like this, get in our car, drive downtown, walk into the first floor of the DA's office, put it in a bin, walk out, go back to the office, new reports come in. I said, what happens then? He said, well, we hit print, we put it in a folder like this, we drive downtown and we walk in the first floor and we drop it in a box at the DA's office and walk back out, and we do it as many times as it takes in order to get as much information to the DA's office as possible. That's just one example. There are many other examples and ways that different law enforcement agencies have historically referred cases. This tool will dramatically improve how it's done regardless of which agency is doing it. Second, the secret sauce, so to speak, of the Case Catcher tool is that the tool looks at the charges that are present in a case and identifies for law enforcement agencies the types of evidence that are most likely to be associated with that particular case, the types of evidence that are going to be needed to secure a conviction. And then the tool guides law enforcement in providing them information on those items. Do you have it? Great, it gets uploaded. Will you have it but you don't have it now? Great, tell us that. Will we not have this particular item for the case? All three pieces of information are very helpful for the district attorney's office to have, because so often, historically, the DA's office will receive a stack of information and they will know what they have, but they will have no idea what they don't have, and that has caused an awful lot of work for an awful lot of people as they search to try to track that information down. Third, the tool allows the DA's office to easily assess the completeness and to some extent the quality of a referred criminal case and understand on a single screen the evidence they have, the evidence they expect to get, and the evidence that they won't have in that case. Fourth, the tool creates a police-prosecutor team for each case and allows communication about discovery items and case referrals to occur within the tool itself between staff, officers, and prosecutors who are working that particular case, as well as provide within the tool clear communication on the timeline or track that the DA intends to prosecute the case on, and whether or not a case is accepted or rejected and why, dramatically improving transparency and joint accountability in this effort. And fifth, and finally, Case Catcher facilitates the trackable distribution of discovery material to defense counsel. One of the DA's senior felony prosecutors told us that prosecutors spend about 50% of their time in court disputing discovery, and this tool should help reduce that. Additionally, as the DA's office and Albuquerque Police Department were piloting Case Catcher over the past several months on live cases, District Attorney Bregman and Chief Medina and Commander Kyle Hartsock, they chose together to take the unprecedented step of moving APD's case referral and discovery management team, known as the SHIELD unit, to the DA's office to physically work alongside the DA's intake team and prosecutors. This move was completed just a couple of weeks ago and truly represents an unprecedented enhancement in the level of teamwork and collaboration between police and prosecutors on case initiation. So these are the items that we'll be talking about today. After everyone's remarks have concluded, we'll take a few questions, then our justice system leaders will need to depart, and for any media who are interested, you're welcome to stay, and we will provide a short demo of the Case Catcher tool after that. So up first this morning we have Chamber President and CEO, Terry Cole.
Good morning, everyone. This is such an exciting day, I can't stand it. I have to say that. It's not in the script, by the way, but I'll tell you, we appreciate the news media being here, so thank you all very much, and everybody else. This is an exciting moment for us. So our chamber works every day to be a contributing partner and ally in the fight against crime and for safer streets. Crime hurts economic growth in many ways and is particularly challenging for business. So that's why we focus our policy work on public safety, because a thriving, growing economy depends in large part on having a safe community. A few years ago, pre-pandemic, we took a group of business leaders to Washington, D.C. for several meetings, including one with the U.S. Department of Justice. Crime was high, our justice systems was undergoing a number of major disruptions, and we're putting incredible pressure on police and prosecutors. And we had one goal for the meeting, to ask the DOJ to look favorably on grant requests from our new DA. At the time, Raul Torres, and from our police department, relating to expanded use of technology and data to strategically fight crime. We had a great meeting. They were very interested in our engagement on the issue. And at the end of it, they said, well, we don't normally do this, but we have a grant open right now. And it allows non-justice system agencies to apply for it, which is rare. And we think you should apply for it. And oh, by the way, the deadline is in 3 weeks. Now, off script again, that was around Christmas. So, remember Adolfo? Yeah, I think maybe even December 24th. I mean, it was pretty, that's what I was telling you yesterday about your deadlines. So we thought about it, and ultimately we believed this was an important way to help the cause. It was an opportunity and a responsibility, really, for us to come alongside our police and prosecutors to develop technology that we believe would help them in their jobs and make a lasting difference in our community. When we landed back in Albuquerque, I called Raul and asked him what the biggest inefficiency was in the process of holding offenders accountable. Something technology could help sort out, I said. And he immediately said, he didn't even take a breath really, he knew right away, and said, Terry, the process is broken at the beginning. The sharing of discovery, not building or launching the strongest cases possible. And this sentiment was confirmed by literally every officer or prosecutor that we've spoken to since. And that includes Chief Medina, who'd done such tremendous work with the SHIELD unit that this technology we think will help support. And Sheriff John Allen, who's so eager to start working with this tool because it continues to be such a pain point for the agency he's now leading. At the core, we believe that a more efficient justice system is a more effective justice system. It makes fewer mistakes, it moves more swiftly, and it produces outcomes that are more favorable for public safety and less favorable for those who are committing crimes. Top DOJ officials have told us multiple times that we're the first Chamber of Commerce in America to receive a grant like this, which we're proud of. But ultimately, I hope that it was our presence and role in the development of this technology that helped give voice to the challenges police and prosecutors have been facing, and helped also to provide glue to keep the partners together in what is really a landmark collaboration. To close the loop on the timeline, our plan was to build CaseCatcher and was approved in May 2020. So that's when funds were first dispersed. 3 years later, almost to the month, here we are with a pandemic in the middle. It's been quite an undertaking, and I can't thank enough the AG, our new district attorney, New Mexico Tech, and our law enforcement leaders for their partnership and their commitment to the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Terry. Leadership transitions among partners can be challenging for a project like this. They can also provide opportunities to propel things along. And I just want to say to our district attorney, we've experienced nothing but intent collaboration and partnership with our new DA and his team at the DA's office, where CaseCatcher will physically live going forward, and for that we're deeply, deeply grateful. So to talk about the impact of this tool and the co-location of the case initiation teams, here's District Attorney Sam Bregman.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for being here. I have to tell you, this is a big, big deal for our office as well. We are so thankful and grateful to the people who are representing many of the organizations that had so much to do with this becoming reality. Let me say right off the bat that I've been here for 3 months, but I walked into a situation when it comes to CaseCatcher that so much of the groundwork was laid, and I think a tremendous amount of credit needs to go to our previous district attorney and now our Attorney General, Raul Torres. He has really spearheaded this within the office that I've taken over and done a tremendous job in making sure how important this project is, because too often, for years now, we've seen part of the reason the dismissal rate from time to time would be high is because of the issues that law enforcement and the DA's office together would have when it comes to discovery. This today, we are announcing that hopefully, and I really believe this, that we are going to see many more cases not being dismissed because of discovery issues. To the contrary. This is an example, I think, the CaseCatcher and the SHIELD unit, which I'll talk about in just a second, of what can happen when a community comes together and collaborates on really important things, recognizing the issue and coming together. When I say that, I mean not only has law enforcement truly stepped up on this, not only has the DA's office been working on this for years, but when you have the Chamber of Commerce doing great things like this, and the DOJ and New Mexico Tech all coming together to solve a problem, I truly believe that this is going to be a real difference maker. And I'm so excited for that. I do want to mention as well and point out that the Albuquerque Police Department obviously has been critical in the development of this. But also there, and I want to compliment the chief and all of the staff of APD, because what they have done by moving the SHIELD unit over, the actual people in our office that are APD, the APD SHIELD unit, to come together and make sure that we not only minimize discovery problems, but we build great cases. And that's really important. We will, at the district attorney's office, want to make sure that every case we present to a jury, every case that we present to a jury is the best that it can possibly be. And this is going to help us. It's going to help us from the very beginning when we initiate a case all the way through. I can't thank enough law enforcement working together on this with the Albuquerque Police Department, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department as well. This is exciting. This is an exciting time for law enforcement and our office here in Albuquerque. So I want to thank everybody involved in making this a reality. I think it's going to make a huge difference when it comes to successful prosecutions here in Bernalillo County. I think that's all I've got right now, but I want to thank the Chamber especially and everybody involved in making this a reality. I know how much time has been put into this, And we at the District Attorney's Office are very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, DA Bregman. We have, and I want to recognize here today with us several folks from APD. APD Deputy Commander Josh Hawks is here. We have Lieutenant Connor Olquist here with us as well. You know, APD was kind enough to host a delegation of visitors yesterday, several of whom are in the room, from another DOJ grant recipient site who's in Albuquerque. They're here from Arizona looking at what we've done on this project and sharing some best practices. And the chief and Kyle Hartsock and I, Commander Kyle Hartsock, who's here, we were talking yesterday about how unthinkable it would have been even just a few years ago that a division at APD and a division at the DA's office would choose happily to locate with one another, physically work in the same place to enhance their collaboration on cases. It's really, really remarkable. And both teams deserve enormous credit for making that happen. So I'll turn it over now to APD Commander Kyle Hartsock.
Thank you. I also just want to real quick recognize Alicia Farley's back here. She's the supervisor of the SHIELD unit. And just to give a little bit more of an explanation, you know, the SHIELD unit at APD is 12 professional staff members that have formed several years ago to try to be better about how we share discovery with the DA's office or the Attorney General's office or any prosecutor's office. But today is really the next evolution of that team. Because if you're a victim of crime, especially a violent crime, what happened to you was simple. It was really straightforward what happened. It was probably captured on video surveillance. It's probably in text messages or DNA evidence or other eyewitness testimony that watched it happen. And to you as the victim, it was straightforward and simple. It's our duty as the police officers in the department and the prosecutors to take what simply happened to a victim and how do we ensure all of that gets in front of a judge or a jury. And the faster we do it, the better outcome for the victim every single time. So this case catcher initiative, and I've worked at the DA's office before APD. I went to DA University for 3 years, is what I told Raul. But as a cop before that with the Sheriff's Department, I really thought I understood the system. And when I worked at the DA's office, I realized I really didn't understand the system as well as I thought I did. Which got us to the next point, is moving the SHIELD unit into the DA's office. When Chief Medina had me take over that team in January, when I first started to really evaluate what they did, I said, your job is really, really similar to what the intake division at the prosecutor's office does. And while we still need our own professionals, and they will still need their own professionals, it just makes so much more sense to have them work shoulder to shoulder and troubleshoot and speed up a ton of these processes. And the SHIELD unit is the team that will be day-to-day inside case catcher and working it. We believe it's going to have an immediate impact on the speed and thoroughness of which we are sharing the sometimes really high amount of information in police reports and surveillance video and forensic reports with the prosecutor's office. We felt confident we can get that in front of a judge. We felt confident that when detention hearings happen, we'll be able to present stronger cases so judges can make even more informed decisions than what they have in the past. So we love the partnership with the Chamber, with the entire business community is someone that APD and I know other law enforcement teams really, really value, that we want businesses to operate here. We want them to feel safe. We want victims to feel safe. So we're very excited about this, and I appreciate everyone working with us on it. Thank you.
Grady's been referenced a few times. We have Attorney General Raul Torres here for a few comments on the genesis and intent of Case Catcher. We've obviously collaborated for most of the time that we were developing this tool with him and with his office, and it truly would not have been possible, of course, without a district attorney stepping up and saying, we need to do things differently, we can do things differently, and we can better use data and technology to improve outcomes, public safety outcomes for the community. Attorney General.
So good morning, and I just want to start by thanking the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce and the business leaders in this community who have been steadfast partners of the District Attorney's Office and have really been interested not just in rhetoric but in real solutions. And I think that's what Case Catcher fundamentally is all about. You know, this is a solution that is below the waterline in many respects. It deals with things that have to do with the mechanics and logistics of the criminal justice system. But I cannot tell you that from the perspective of frontline prosecutors and police officers who are so often ignored when there is a conversation about how to turn this system around, this solution puts an end to the paper chase that has defined the dysfunction inside the criminal justice system. And this solution should lead to stronger cases, a higher rate of conviction, and better outcomes and ultimately justice for victims. And that's what we are all about. And I want to commend District Attorney Bregman for continuing that partnership, for building on that partnership. It's not easy to take over an agency and hold the door open for partners. Make space for the idea that there are other people who have something to offer, and he deserves great credit for that. He deserves great credit, as does APD, for bringing the SHIELD unit inside the district attorney's office. When I took over that agency, I think most people remember there's just stacks and stacks of boxes, and this should put a stake in the heart of the idea that we will ever again go back to a time where some missing report or some missing video will mean the difference between a victim getting justice and something that happens that isn't justice. Because the district attorney and I both share the same ultimate goal, which is to make a system that resolves these cases on the merits, on the facts, on the evidence, and not on whether or not a lapel video is in a file or a report has been turned in on time. And if we can do things like this and build on common sense solutions from the perspective of frontline police officers and prosecutors, it's a demonstration of what is possible when public agencies and private partnerships point to a better way. Thank you.
So as APD and the DA's office move into full deployment of the case catcher tool, our grant team will be bringing other metro law enforcement agencies into the fold over the next few months as well, providing them the necessary training to begin using case catcher on their cases. And in particular, it's received an optimistic reception from the new leadership team at the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, with whom we actually began trainings last week. With us today from BCSO, we have Captain Paul Watkins and Chief Deputy David Funes.
Good morning and thank you all. I want to thank the Chamber for identifying this gap between law enforcement and the DA's office. I know that that has been an issue for many years now. So thank you so much for identifying that gap and then going out and finding the funding to pay for this new tool. And thank you to New Mexico Tech for creating this tool. It sounds very promising, and I'm hopeful that this tool will help us to provide discovery to the DA's office more efficiently, and that will result in more favorable outcomes with the prosecution. So thank you guys all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we, of course, simply wouldn't be here today without the dedicated team of data scientists and programmers at New Mexico Tech, including ICASA Director Michael Smith, Chief Technology Officer Daryl Ackley, and with us from New Mexico Tech is Associate Vice President for Research, Carlos Romero.
Thank you very much. New Mexico Tech is a small research university in Socorro, New Mexico, 1 hour south of Albuquerque. And when I got to New Mexico Tech, I got to learn about the Institute for Complex Additive Systems Analysis that people just call ICASA. And ICASA has worked on national and homeland security problem sets for the past 20 years. We looked at the technology they had developed and the methodology that they created as a center over 20 years of experience. And when criminal justice started in New Mexico, there was an effort from the legislature and other politicians to reform the criminal justice system. And we had a very receptive ear in a new district attorney, Raul Torres. And we started discussing ways we could utilize data better, or they could utilize their information better. And he got it right away. So Raul Torres became a fearless advocate. And the justice system is complex, it has a lot of silos, and it's a difficult process to figure out. Those are the kind of problems that our data scientists at ICASA really enjoy. So our technologists and our students, graduate students, undergraduate students, and our professionals took task on various projects related to the criminal justice reform across multiple agencies, but there was one constant in all that. It was the Second District Attorney's Office. They were a part of every project that New Mexico Tech has been involved with, and this project with the Chamber of Commerce was by far one of the most wide-reaching. It is actually getting involved in a problem, and there's a solution. And the solution's created here in New Mexico. You have the technical experts, you have the prosecutors, you have the attorneys, defense attorneys, you have police departments, all those who are involved working together for a solution with scientists and engineers who are trying to make it work better. So ICASA is not on the forefront of any of these, they're in the back. So they help figure out all those pieces, those mechanical pieces, so that things work more smoothly. So New Mexico Tech, we're very happy to be a part of this. We want to continue the work. We've invested our own resources into this work, and we will continue to make criminal justice reform in New Mexico a priority. Thank you.
All right, and to close us out this morning, we have Peter Lorenz, Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Greater Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce and CEO of UNIRAC.
Thank you, Scott. And I would really like to close out with 3 thoughts here. First, I wanted to commend the justice system leaders who are here with us today. It's not easy to choose change and successfully manage through all the challenges that come with any change. And you have been fantastic partners on an admittedly uncertain journey there. We know that behind every new tool and technology is a host of operational changes that come with it, and your teams have really leaned into this opportunity, even going as far as we heard today here to decide to physically work together in the same space. That's incredible. And as a business leader, I will say that's what great leadership looks like. Thank you. And our community is grateful for all this. Why? Because the criminal intent wants our police and prosecutors to not get along, to struggle when assembling cases, to not be on the same page, to not communicate well, to use antiquated methods, and to not build strong cases that will result in convictions. They know that the more efficient and collaborative you become, the harder it will be for them to beat the rap. These announcements today advance the fight against crime. Make no mistake about it. Second, I want to commend the Chamber team and New Mexico Tech team for how hard they have worked to build this tool and built this tool during COVID, to work right here in our community for our police and our prosecutors. It is homegrown, and you can tell these agencies feel the consideration that has been given to the important work they do. And then finally, we took a delegation of business leaders to Washington, D.C. This past December. And while we were there, we met once again with the DOJ, with the top DOJ officials at the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And Terry told you earlier about meeting number 1. This was meeting number 2, a few years later, where we were able to describe what KRQE does and the progress that has been made. And the Senate-confirmed director of the BJA himself made a point to attend our meeting, and along with several other top agency officials. And they left us with a couple of important messages that I want to share with you today. The first one is KRQE is really a unique technology suited to solve serious problems that exist in justice systems throughout the country. And most places have nothing like this to help them solve it. We should be very proud of that. And then secondly, KRQE is the result of a unique partnership. It is nearly unheard of for business community to play this kind of civic leadership role in a key public safety challenge. And it's really unheard of for a higher ed institution to be as skillful and agile, I may say, as New Mexico Tech has been in building this tool. And then it's nearly unheard of for 2 different teams of prosecutors and over half of a dozen law enforcement agencies to embrace and advance new criminal justice technology altogether. And finally, I would add, KRQE clearly has the potential to produce a unique, powerful result for our community in the fight against crime. Thank you.
All right, so we will, as I mentioned earlier, take just a few questions if there are any, and then our speakers will depart, and we will do a short demo of the case catcher tool for any members of the media who would like to see it. So, questions? Yes, sir.
How soon is this expected to be deployed?
So the tool has been in operation on live cases with APD, between the DA's office and APD, for about 4 months now or so. They've been utilizing redundant processes, processing cases the previous way and with case catcher during this piloting phase, and it would be within the next couple of weeks that they would move with respect to APD cases fully onto case catcher being used to process those. Over the next couple of months, the other area law enforcement agencies will be coming on board with the tool as well. Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, our tribal police departments in the area, New Mexico State Police, UNM Police, etc. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you again for being here today. Thank you to all of our justice system leaders and partners for being here. We'll let them depart and take a few moments to exit the room, and then we'll go about a brief demonstration of case catcher.
Thank you, Scott. So I'm just going to run you through a quick demo of case catcher so you can see how the two agencies can interface with each other, the DA's office and law enforcement agencies. So we have a pretty specific workflow worked out for case catcher, in which the DA's office is going to initiate all of the cases. Excuse me while we get back to this starting page. So the DA's office will initiate the cases, and then law enforcement agencies will add discovery to those cases. Creating a case is a very simple process. You're going to select the law enforcement agency and the type of case. We are asking for enough information on the cases to identify it. Case catcher is not meant to be the system of record for any case. The DA's office will continue to use their case management system to track all of the details of the case. This is strictly for the discovery items. So the DA's office intake staff will enter as much information as they have about any given case. As Scott mentioned, case catcher is very charge specific. So depending on the charge that we put in here, case catcher is going to ask for a lot of very specific information relating to that charge. I'm just going to fill in some quick information so that we can move on to the next step. Bear with me here. We are building a case team. This will allow the DA's office and the law enforcement agency to know exactly who's working on both sides of the case so they can have direct communication rather than a flurry of emails trying to find the right person to even ask questions of. So when this case is created, I'm sorry, I skipped a couple things. We will, the law enforcement agency immediately has access to it, and they will begin adding discovery. So I'm going to switch over to being a law enforcement agency user so we can see where this case goes next. It's incredibly important that both agencies are able to see the same information. There are slightly different features on each side, but it is meant for sharing, for transparency. You can see we have all the information that we entered before. Everything can be edited as we go if more information is found, if typos are found, any of those sorts of things. So the upload discovery workflow was the real meat of this tool. We're asking the law enforcement agency to upload discovery in each of these categories. So we have 6 standard discovery category items. These are on every single case. And then at the top, we have the charge-specific discovery categories. So these are items that prosecutors most frequently need in order to prosecute this kind of case. So in this case, it's a DWI charge. We have an additional few tabs of additional discovery categories that will need to be added. It's very simple to add these discovery. Items can be uploaded from the computer. Any file size and any file type can be uploaded to case catcher. We have a huge amount of storage. So we're really trying to get every single piece of discovery into case catcher rather than having them in disparate places across the agencies. In addition to being able to add a document, a URL can also be added in order to grab something that is stored somewhere else, pull it into CaseCatcher without having to download and re-upload that item.
And that often happens with body camera footage. A simple link can take the district attorney to that particular body camera footage. It doesn't need to be uploaded as a video file.
So I'm just going to move over to a case where we've already uploaded all of the information. If the officers or the SHIELD staff, depending on the agency, don't have a piece of discovery, they can mark it as pending, saying that they will have it. The DA doesn't need to ask for it, they know it's coming, or they can mark it as not applicable to the case so that the DA's office doesn't need to try and track it down. It is not necessary in this case, it doesn't exist in this case. And the reason that we have those three different categories of upload, pending, and NA is so that at a quick glance, the DA's office is able to see exactly what they have and exactly what they can expect in a case. So we can see here that all of these discovery categories were uploaded. We have a couple of things that we're waiting on, and we have a couple of things that will not be present in this case.
And this was the single screen that I was referencing earlier. When the case goes over to the DA's office, they can see on this single screen, what do they have? What will we expect to still get? What won't we have on this case? In the past, prior to this tool, all they have known is what has been given to them in a stack of papers or CDs. They don't know what they don't have, and that is precisely what has set off the flurry of emails, phone calls, etc., from one agency to the other, trying to track things down that may, in many cases, very well just simply not exist for the case. Drags the process out. It's very chaotic. It's hard for supervisors to track requests for discovery from one agency to the other, so this very much streamlines that process.
Also, to that end, we have a messaging feature in CaseCatcher. This is where the case team can communicate directly about what is coming, what is not coming. If they're waiting on a document that's marked pending, they can get an exact deadline on when to expect that. This case team is a new idea in that there is direct communication, there are faces to names, we're not searching for email addresses through different directories. This is really easy communication, hopefully again streamlining the whole process.
So for every case, you will likely have staff on the APD side from the SHIELD unit who are working the case. The officer who is the primary officer in the case will be on the case team for this particular case. You'll have intake staff at the DA's office who will be on the case team, and then you will have the actual prosecutor who's prosecuting the case. They will now finally be able to communicate within the tool together. As Maggie mentioned, one of the things that we heard from many of the law enforcement officers that we spoke to is that they often did not know who was handling the case that they had put together. And they couldn't find it. I mean, it was very difficult to find who that person was, or who the variety of people may have been at the DA's office who were working that case. Now they will be able to see it within the tool and talk to them.
And of course, the officer is the face of law enforcement to the victims. So victims are calling officers asking for updates, and officers had no way of finding out where the case stood, what was happening. So now we have that information available to them. This is an example of a case team where we can have multiple officers assigned to a case, perhaps law enforcement agency staff, district attorneys and district attorney staff. So all of these people know each other and can communicate with each other. Finally, once all the discovery is uploaded, the DA's office will be notified and they can begin working the case. So they can start redacting documents, they can start sharing documents with opposing counsel, they can do everything they need to do to move towards prosecution, including determining if there is enough evidence to move forward with prosecution.
So when APD has completed that upload workflow that we were walking you through with the buttons at the top of the page, at the end of that process, if they feel that they have a sufficient amount of discovery uploaded to refer the case, there's a simple button on the APD side or on the law enforcement side, and they refer the case to the DA's office. And you noticed, if you go back to the main screen there, that's when it comes up on as a DA user. Once it's been referred over, they've got accept and reject here. The DA's office can accept the case. When that happens, a notification gets sent to the entire case team to know their case has been accepted. Big improvement for officers in particular because they'll be able to see when their cases have been accepted for prosecution. Similarly, if they're rejected, and there are many reasons why cases can be rejected for prosecution, it will actually not just send a notification to the case team that has been rejected, it will also generate an email to the case team explaining some of the reasons why the case was rejected. So it's a big improvement in sort of two-way transparency and accountability from both sides.
Additionally, the DA's office, prosecutors will be able to share discovery straight out of Case Catcher with opposing counsel, with expert witnesses, with whoever needs to get that discovery. So it never has to leave Case Catcher. All of these processes happen within the system.
And so a couple of these tabs here, we don't need to go through them. A discovery tab simply allows the user on the law enforcement side or the prosecutor side to manage the documents, rename them if necessary, download them in bulk, copy them to another case if there's a co-defendant, which is a very helpful tool. That means that nobody has to upload discovery twice. And it also, one of these other tabs, distribution, is what Maggie was just referencing there. The tool, you can distribute discovery out of the tool to the defense counsel from Case Catcher in a trackable, loggable way so that you understand when it was accessed by the opposing counsel. So that's a very quick rundown of what the tool does. Any questions?
I guess just to make it clear, field officers will also have access to this.
So it'll be different by agency. The way that APD prefers to handle it, APD, the SHIELD unit itself will be the entity that aggregates all of the discovery and submits it. At the sheriff's office, it will be a mixture of civilian staff and deputies. At many of the other smaller law enforcement agencies, it will be the officers themselves. We anticipate New Mexico State Police will be mostly the officers themselves. So the good thing about the tool is it's built so that it works either way. But officers will always be a part of the case team if they need to access it to look and find something. Yes, sir.
How are you guys keeping the data in here in Case Catcher secure?
So that the tool itself will live at the district attorney's office. So they have the systems and networks necessary to for the data to be completely secure. So it's on site at the DA's office where they're already housing information like this in a secure manner. So there's no issue there. They did, as part of this process, they did bring in a cloud-based storage system because, as you can imagine, a massive amount of storage will be necessary for all the items that will be distributed and moved through Case Catcher. So that was something that had to be done as part of the grant. And we also, with the grant funds, purchased some on-site servers for the tool to reside and for some documents to reside. So that's how storage is being handled.
So then any agency is able to access the same info?
Correct.
Each agency can only access the information within their, so law enforcement, APD can only see APD cases. The DA's office can access the information across all of the agencies.
Anything else? All right. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.